de tal magnitud hubiese sido poco común. Ahora, personas como Min y William, de 101 años, forman parte de un segmento poblacional que está creciendo con gran rapidez. ¿A qué se debe el incremento en las expectativas de vida? ¿Podemos llegar todos a los 100 años?
So many people want the secret. I told him, my heart doctor said, I'm going to bottle if I want to see it. He said, well, I want the first bottle. My heart doctor. No, I don't know what it is. I don't know. You have a good sense of humor. I think I have that. And a good outlook in life and love of my family, my daughter, my children, so much love. That all helps.
La naturaleza de las cosas, con David Suzuki. Cómo vivir hasta los 100 años. Un valle temperado y fértil en un rincón remoto del sur de China. Aquí es donde comienzan las leyendas de edades excepcionales, en lugares remotos pasados por alto en el tiempo, donde la vida es simple y las labores duras. Este lugar es el condado de Bama, y es aquí donde dicen que más personas llegan a los 100 años en comparación con cualquier otra parte de la China o tal vez del mundo. Lu Di-hua está entre los habitantes más viejos de Bama. Dice tener 110 años. A pesar de su edad, es increíblemente ágil. Trabaja su jardín con las mismas fuerzas de vida y muerte que ella misma aparenta desobedecer. Hace 2 siglos, un emperador chino viajó a esta tierra legendaria. Pero la magia de Bama lo eludió. Otros continúan en la búsqueda.
So Yuan, where are we now?
We're from Nanjing to Bama.
Yeah, so this is Nanning.
Yeah.
James Vopel conoce las historias de los viejos más viejos de Bama. Con la ayuda del investigador chino Yuan Ye, él también espera descifrar algunos de sus secretos. Parte de su trabajo es explorar los límites de la expectativa de vida humana. Vopel, quien es director del Instituto Max Planck en Alemania y científico decano de la Universidad de Duke, conduce un ejército de investigadores con un solo propósito: descifrar los misterios del envejecimiento.
Well, what I'm interested in is why do some people live long, healthy lives, and in particular, why do some people live to be 100? And not only do some people live to be 100, but the number of centenarians is doubling every decade. Today, there are actually 100 times more centenarians in the world than there were 100 years ago. Why is this? And can we learn some clues about this very rapid proliferation in the number of centenarians? Can we learn some things from this that would help us to understand how more of us could live long, healthy lives?
Pero la historia sobre la investigación de James Vopel de cómo llegar a la edad de 100 años comienza en otro país, lejos del paisaje rural de Bama. Comienza aquí, en Dinamarca, tierra de privilegios, prosperidad, salud al alcance de todos y seguridad social de por vida. James Vopel es un demógrafo a quien le gustan los números y la información que de ellos se puede extraer. Fue aquí, en Dinamarca, donde los números le dijeron que algo sorprendente estaba sucediendo en los últimos años de la vida de los humanos.
Most of the growth in the number of centenarians has been due to an extraordinary improvement in the chance of surviving from 80 to 100. It's relatively easy to survive to 80. About half the people in developed countries today will survive to 80. But it's hard, really hard to survive from 80 to 100. We have a pretty good idea about why some kids die as babies. You know, there's infectious diseases, there's congenital abnormalities and so on. We have a pretty good idea of why teenagers die. They drive when they're drunk, or they take an overdose of drugs, or get into some other kind of violent death. And we have a pretty good idea of why people die in their 40s, 50s, and 60s. Maybe they smoke too much or they drink too much. But we have very little idea about why some people die at 80, other people survive to 90, and a few people survive to 100. That's just not well understood.
¿Por qué repentinamente hay más personas viviendo de 80 a 100 años? James Vaupel empezó a buscar pistas mientras dictaba sus clases en la Universidad de Odense.
Things happen so fast. You know, things are changing very, very quickly. Yeah. 3/4 of them are dying within a 3-year period, and only 1/4.
Reclutó a un equipo de investigadores que incluye a Bernard June y Karen Andersen Randberg, y se embarcó en un ambicioso estudio sobre el envejecimiento, siguiendo las vidas de una generación completa de daneses desde su cumpleaños número 100 hasta sus muertes.
She's still the same. She has stayed bedridden since we visited her the first time at the age of 100. And then I went to visit this man in Ringe.
El trabajo comenzó con los archivos locales, buscando nombres de individuos a punto de cumplir 100 años. Los registros de nacimiento daneses, hermosamente mantenidos por centurias por los clérigos locales, ahora están entre los más completos del mundo. Fue crucial verificar la edad de cada participante. James Vaupel sabía que había muchos mitos sobre los centenarios, por lo que decidió separar la verdad de la ficción. Al final, el grupo de estudio incluyó a 207 centenarios. Karen Andersen Randberg comenzó a realizar visitas frecuentes.
We are here in Fredericia on the eastern coast of Jutland, visiting Inger Marstal, age 102 and a half. She lives by her own and she manages without any help.
Primero evaluó la salud y verificó la habilidad para realizar tareas diarias como bañarse y vestirse. Una observación temprana fue que 1/3 del grupo vivía independiente y con relativa buena salud.
Skal du have med væk?
Nej, det kan ikke.
Ja.
Mrs. Master takes a shower every 2 days, 3 days. Yeah, 2 eller 3 dage om ugen a week, on her own without any help at all. And that's quite extraordinary. Yeah.
It's necessary to be a lady.
It's necessary to be a lady.
Centenarians really are special, and there must be something special about their health that enables them to survive to age 100. And there's two possibilities. The one possibility is that they age more slowly. The other possibility is that throughout their whole lifetime, they just were physically and mentally more capable than people of the same age. So that perhaps a centenarian, when she was 80, was like a 60-year-old, and maybe when she was 60, she was like a 40-year-old. And it might not be that she's aging more slowly, but that she always had better abilities, better health.
James Vaupel es estadounidense, aun cuando ahora vive en Europa. Su interés en la vejez comenzó aquí y surgió a partir de las repentinas pérdidas de 3 miembros de su familia. La tragedia lo hizo pensar sobre las posibilidades de morir a distintas edades. Lo que descubrió cambió dramáticamente sus creencias sobre el envejecimiento.
Now you're gonna play this, aren't you?
Okay.
Gerontologists and other demographers and others who studied aging used to think that death rates went up steadily with age, so that every year your chance of death went up by about 10%. But this pattern, it turns out, doesn't hold at advanced old ages, and instead of inexorably increasing with age, at advanced ages, mortality seems to plateau or level off.
Your father's father, do you know how old he was when he passed?
Esta era la paradoja. ¿Por qué cuando se creía que las personas eran más frágiles y vulnerables se nivelaban las tasas de mortalidad? James Vaupel formó colaboraciones con un número de investigadores estadounidenses. El gerontólogo Thomas Peirce de Harvard es uno de ellos.
From my medical school training, from my residency training, it had been ingrained in me that the older you were, the sicker you get. And yet, I expected with these centenarians who I was taking care of that they'd be my sickest patients for sure. They would have all the diseases associated with aging and that they would be bedridden. And yet they ended up being my functionally fittest.
Now, what I'm going to do is show you some pictures. And I just want you to tell me what it is.
Thomas Peirce se preguntaba si algunas personas eran más resistentes a las enfermedades que mataban a otros más jóvenes. Asistido por la neuropsicóloga Marjorie Silver, comenzó a estudiar a centenarios que vivían en Boston.
You know what kind of boat?
Canoe.
We've done some studies to look at when there's a point in the very old when they seem to have demonstrated their survival prowess.
Oh, that looks like me.
They've gotten through a period of time that other people are stricken by diseases associated with aging, like Alzheimer's disease, for instance. And if they've gotten through that period of time, maybe they're now scot-free and they can go on to live another 10 or 15 years with pretty good confidence that they're going to do that. And with men in particular, that seems to be around the mid-80s, and we've called that getting over the hump. With women, it's a little later. It's probably in the early to mid-90s. And as strange as that sounds, the reason is probably that women are physiologically stronger than men at these older ages, and they can live with their chronic diseases better than the men can.
En el condado de Bama, la incidencia de enfermedades cardiovasculares e infartos es mucho menor que el promedio general de China, y las explicaciones no son difíciles de encontrar. Aun cuando las personas que viven aquí están entre las más pobres de China, la mayoría se mantiene en forma caminando hacia sus campos en las altas colinas. El trabajo es el centro de la vida diaria, y con tan pocas comodidades, gran parte de las tareas se realizan como hace siglos. El hecho de que las personas usualmente estén en forma es un premio de consolación por una larga y difícil vida.
The statistics on Bama are really quite extraordinary. There's 50 centenarians here out of a population of 230,000 people. So that's something like 200 centenarians per million. In Denmark or France, other developed countries, it's about 100 centenarians per million, so only half as many as here in Bama. And in China as a whole, there are only about 5 centenarians per million. So Bama, if the numbers can be believed, have 40 times more centenarians than China.
Este es Jian Xuni. Con 102 años, es el más joven de la élite centenaria de Bama. A James Vaupel se le ha dicho que unos cuantos dólares le podrían asegurar su presentación.
May I sit down here?
Y agrega una barra de chocolate como complemento.
I'd like to ask, does Mr. Jian have any children?
El científico estadounidense tiene mucho que preguntarle a Jian, cuya larga vida parece desafiar todas las probabilidades. Pero su última pregunta, la menos científica, le da la respuesta más intrigante.
Does Mr. Jian have a secret of longevity? If I want to live to be 100 years old, what should I do?
如果我们也想活到100岁，他能不能告诉我们？
做点好事，就是因公就好了嘛，这啥世界的嘛。
Jian explica que su larga vida es una recompensa por hacer buenas obras. Dice haber salvado por lo menos 2 vidas a lo largo de los años. A las personas de Bama se les conoce en China por realizar actos generosos. Sin embargo, su longevidad puede que tenga menos que ver con alimentar el alma que con alimentar el cuerpo. Hay muchas recetas para la longevidad en Bama, pero un ingrediente común es un grano pequeño llamado oma. Aun cuando es miembro de la familia del cannabis, son las grasas no saturadas las que la hacen popular. Los granos molidos se mezclan con agua para hacer un caldo. Gran parte de la cocina china requiere sofreír en aceites saturados. Pero en Bama, casi todas las comidas se hacen en el caldo del oma.
It's really very good. Very, very good. This is the kind of food that the people of Bama believe helped them live a long time. And it looks like a very nutritious dish. It has some vegetables in it. It has some rice, some corn, and some beans that are ground up. The beans contain an oil that's similar to olive oil, which is probably healthy. And it's in a broth so that you get some liquid when you're eating the food. So that combination of different kinds of vegetables plus liquid might be very good for you. Now, I'm not saying this is the key to longevity, but good, healthy, balanced diet probably does contribute to longevity. No fat, by the way. Very low fat.
En Bama dicen que se debe comer hasta estar casi satisfecho. La glotonería no se ve bien. Los científicos saben que cuando se reduce la ingesta de calorías a la mitad, la vida puede extenderse en un 30 o 40%. Pero tales estudios nunca se han hecho en humanos. El arroz es el alimento principal. En China se ingiere en cada comida. Pero en Bama, el arroz se transforma en un poderoso vino. Almacenado en barriles de cerámica, el arroz fermentado se convierte rápidamente en alcohol. Se agregan raíces y hierbas para promover la buena salud, así como un ingrediente especial que, según algunos, es capaz de hacernos vivir más. Resulta curioso, pero son serpientes venenosas. El camino a la larga vida incluye varios planes de alimentación. La nativa de Toronto, Min Sandler, es lo que James Vaupel llama un Rolls Royce. A los 103 años, es más saludable que muchas personas 20 años más jóvenes.
What would I call the secret of her amazing long life? She has tremendous appetite. She can polish off a small pizza at a single go.
I would think it's the genes. I mean, she does have a wonderful outlook on life, and she never complains, never carries grudges, and she has some very good attributes, I think, that help too.
La longevidad parece venirle como herencia familiar. Un vistazo a su hija de 80 años nos permite imaginar que ha heredado la juventud de la madre.
Wipe it off, you don't want kisses. We don't want kisses. It always makes me think when I see that she's living to this age and the way she is. Maybe I'll have a chance. I don't know if lucky as she is, but certainly it's good to know there's some genes like that in the family. So
I feel like I don't have an iota of her wonderful genes. I said to her, I don't have a single Levine gene in me. I just feel it. And she said, I know, it's a shame, isn't it?
All that little bit. No, I took it out of these. No, get it.
Several genes have now been found that have an important effect on longevity, in the sense that people differ in terms of the exact gene that they have, and people with the good gene live longer on average than people with the bad gene. The best known case is a gene that's called ApoE, and that was discovered, became important because it appears to play a major role in Alzheimer's disease, and it turns out that it may also play a role in people's susceptibility to heart disease. And some studies that we've done suggest that people with the good version of the ApoE gene have 4 times the chance of living to 100 than people with the bad version.
Table, baby.
So she has all the done.
When she first came, there was a sort of an empathy between the two of us. We liked each other right away.
People 60, 70 years were already very old. Here, a lady 102, she's not old.
Well, how many are there like her? Let's be realistic. She is one of a kind.
So we're talking about one in a million.
She is one of a kind. She just happens to be very, very fortunate. How many people do you see 102 years old like this lady?
God is good to her.
If she didn't live properly, she wouldn't live to. She wouldn't live to.
I don't smoke. I don't eat fried stuff. I don't eat greasy stuff. I watch my diet. And I drink lots of orange juice. That's all I can tell you. What else?
Well,
my sex life was good when I was at one time. Long time no see.
¿Quién puede decir qué es lo que le ha agregado más años a la vida de Min? Pero de acuerdo con el estudio de James Vaupel en las familias canadienses, no es solo un gen.
Our estimate is that there may be something like 100, 200, 300 genes that have an important effect on longevity. So there's not one gene or 10 genes, there's hundreds. And there may be thousands of genes that have a small effect, and there may be hundreds of genes that have a major effect.
Algunos genes influyen directamente en la longevidad, otros indirectamente, alterando las probabilidades de enfermarse. En Dinamarca, James Vaupel y sus colegas se preguntaban qué papel desempeñaban los genes al determinar las diferencias en la longevidad de las personas. Para obtener respuestas, necesitaban conseguir personas con los mismos genes, pero con vidas distintas. Necesitaban gemelos.
By looking at identical twins compared with fraternal twins, you can separate out the importance of genetic factors compared to family background factors. And the twin studies that we've done here in Denmark indicate that something like 20 or 25% of the variation in how long people live after age 30 appears to be due to genetic variation among people.
Pero, ¿qué pasa más adelante en la vida? ¿Ha cambiado la importancia de los genes?
Well, this is the call to order for the 1586th meeting of the Orleans Coffee Club. I'd like to compare newspapers with TV.
Según la investigación de James Vaupel, a medida que estos hombres retirados del club de debates de Cape Cod alcancen los 80 o más, sus genes tendrán más importancia.
In terms of physical functioning, able to walk or pick up things, carry out activities of daily living. And in terms of mental function, the ability to remember things, maybe 50% of the variation in your physical and mental abilities after age 80 might be genetic.
Yes.
Yes, Cronkite, what was it, Walter Cronkite, would end his program with, and that's the way it is. Someone said, that's the way he says it is. And so those anchor people have a lot of power. My name is Jesse Lawrence Moffat. The Lawrence was spelled with a U. Why, I'm not sure, and I don't care particularly. I am now 101. I celebrated my 101st birthday on March 6th. My ancestors, particularly the female ancestors, lived quite long. One of them 2 months short of 100. McKinley was president when I was born. He was inaugurated in March 4th, 1897. I was born 2 days later. My great-grandmother, Lily, lived to be 2 months short of 100. When I was in France near the end of the war in November of 1917, or October maybe, I received a card from her, I still have it, that she wrote to me from her little farm in Connecticut. She was then 99.
Los genes familiares puede que hayan ayudado a que Jesse Lawrence Moffat viviera hasta los 100 años. Pero, ¿qué pasa ahora que tiene 101? ¿Habrá heredado también un rango de vida fijo? Su bisabuela vivió solo hasta los 99 años.
Thank you, Grandpa.
You're welcome. All of a sudden, maybe a year or so ago, or less, I began to be feeble.
Grandpa.
Yes.
Today I'm going to take my final spelling test.
Today? Yes, great. I began to think, when did this first come on me? And I can think back, I didn't have it on my 100th birthday. And then I think back, I didn't have it on my wife's funeral, which was in May of 1997. So sometime after that, I began to get feeble. As you see, I walk like an old man. And I shouldn't be surprised, because I am, I guess, 101. So that, I know that loss of balance and that feebleness has all come on me sometime after I became 100.
See?
After a person celebrates his or her 100th birthday, the average lifespan is about 3 years. So lifespan is short on average after 100. The fact that people who reach 100, for the most part, don't live very much longer is not evidence of a biological limit to lifespan. What it's evidence of is that mortality rates have reached a very high level. My guess is that several hundred years ago, when reaching the age of 80 was about as rare as reaching the age of 100 is today, that at age 80, remaining lifespan was very short, maybe 3 or 4 years. So the best way to think about it, I think, is that there's been a shift in the frontier of human survival.
Pero la miríada de genes que poseemos no ha cambiado. Son los mismos genes que conseguimos en nuestros ancestros. Entonces, ¿qué podría decirse ante tan dramático cambio en la frontera de la supervivencia humana? Por más de una década, James Vaupel ha colaborado con el entomólogo Jim Carey de la Universidad de California. Jim Carrey estudia la mosca de la fruta mediterránea. En una sorprendente demostración de cómo los organismos con los mismos genes tienen rangos de vida dramáticamente diferentes, Jim Carrey tomó moscas que normalmente sobreviven 4 semanas y extendió sus vidas hasta por 8 meses. Lo hizo manipulando su entorno y a su vez los genes que controlaban su reproducción. Las moscas mediterráneas necesitan proteínas para poder reproducirse. Al alimentar a las moscas solo con azúcar, Jim Carrey encontró que podía mantener apagado su sistema de reproducción y evitar que las moscas envejecieran.
Most interestingly, when Carrey gave them protein, then they rejuvenated themselves and started to lay eggs. Laid almost as many eggs as the flies did who got good diet from birth. They laid lots of eggs and were all dead within 3 weeks. From an evolutionary point of view, there's 2 things that are important. The one thing that's important is to survive until you can reproduce, and then to successfully reproduce and have lots of offspring. And there has to be some balance between these 2 factors so that the animals try to survive as long as they can when conditions are not favorable for reproduction, and then try to reproduce as fast as possible and as much as possible when conditions are favorable. And the genes that affect longevity appear to be related to this switch between reproductive mode and maintenance mode or survival mode.
A woman was man crazy. She was in Florida. She sat around the pool, and she had a beach chair beside an empty beach chair. Every time a woman came over and says, "Is this taken?" She says, "Yes, taken." She was waiting for a man. Finally, a man came over. She says, "Is this taken?" "No." So he sits down next to her, and she looks at him. "You're so pale. You need some sunshine. You need some sun." He said, "Well, I'm pale because I just came out of jail." "How long were you in jail?" "I was in jail 10 years. What did you do?" "What happened?" "I killed my wife." "Oh, so you're single, eh?" That's a story.
Los humanos son mucho más complicados que las moscas mediterráneas, pero nuestra reproducción sí pareciera estar ligada a la longevidad. Las mujeres que tienen su último hijo luego de los 40 tienen más probabilidades de llegar a los 100.
So genetics play a role, but we have lots of genes, and depending on which genes are switched on and which genes are switched off and what the interaction is between genes and the environment, longevity can be very plastic, and the length of time that an individual lives can be radically changed by environmental changes.
Se dice que las personas en Bama pueden llegar a vivir hasta 140 años. ¿Hay algo en el ambiente que propicie tal fenómeno? James Vopel convoca a una reunión con el líder del Comité de Envejecimiento local.
I'm interested in knowing what you think the secrets of longevity are in Bama. Why do some people in Bama live to be 100 years old?
让你享受老人长期居住的地方呢，比较那个。
For the people who live in Bama, they have a good environment. The climate is never cold during the winter, and also they have clean water. And secondly is all the plant is very natural.
What is very natural?
Yeah, the plants or the vegetables.
Oh, the vegetables, yeah, the food.
Yeah,
yeah.
yes, okay. And third things is all the people doing some work in the field or do exercise. If they have good, they have some place to live. So okay, they have a child. Or something like that.
Do you think Bama is the only place in China where people are nice to each other and aren't too greedy, and live in villages where they don't get too much disturbance?
No, that's not only one place.
No, there's lots of places.
Yeah,
right?
lots of places. Yeah.
So that once again, what makes Bama special?
El agradable paisaje de Dinamarca puede ser mucho menos retador físicamente, pero los investigadores han estado aprendiendo sobre cómo influye el comportamiento y el estilo de vida en el envejecimiento. Este es Holger Bagge. Tiene 102 años y es uno de los pocos centenarios en el estudio danés.
Og så kunne de tegne den her efter. I met Holger Bagge the first time just after his 100th anniversary, and he was at that time perfectly physical and good health and cognitively intact. I've met him since then twice, when he was 101 and a half, and just a week ago for the third time, and he has practically not changed during these nearly 3 years.
Holger Bagge explica a los investigadores que su longevidad no tiene nada que ver con los genes, sino con el ejercicio diario.
Musklerne, all sort of different exercises with his legs and his arms stretching and bending. Yeah, he starts every morning when he gets out of bed.
Por medio de experimentos, el equipo de investigación danés ha recopilado evidencia del poder del ejercicio en edades maduras.
3, 4, 5. Tænk på at stå så oprejst som muligt. 6.
Al colocar a un grupo de voluntarios ancianos en una rutina de ejercicios semanales, los investigadores encontraron que hasta los frágiles ancianos de 80 años podían recuperar la fortaleza y vitalidad que tenían 20 años antes.
It's amazing that you can get results in this field, that they are much better after the 1 year's exercise.
Til venstre.
Now they are not afraid to take their bikes or to take the bus or to walk longer than they do before.
Så tror jeg på det før.
Los científicos ya saben que la confianza y la independencia en última instancia afectan la supervivencia a largo plazo. Entonces, ¿qué hace que Bama sea tan especial? ¿Influyen el ejercicio diario, la dieta, el aire fresco y los genes en la longevidad de sus habitantes? Hacia finales de la tarde, James Vaupel se enfrenta cara a cara con otro de los centenarios de Bama.
Yeah, the old man is 107 years old.
107 years old. And does she live here with her family?
She lives with one of her sons.
What is her son's name? Is this her son?
Yeah. He is 65 years old.
How old?
65 years old.
65 years old.
Yeah.
Is that her youngest son?
No, her number two.
Her number
son.
2 son.
Yeah.
James Vaupel no puede sino admirarse ante el hecho de que una mujer con 6 hijos haya tenido a su segundo hijo a la edad de 42 años.
What does she think the secret of longevity is?
Ta sắm mừng với mừng đại cháu bên này lại này mừng kính mà đại cháu mừng đầu đó luôn.
Nên cái tiếp bao điều luôn là nên bao điều nào đó. Có là tay cân thì chạy.
The woman said she eat everything which can be eaten. Yeah.
She eats everything that can be eaten.
Yeah.
Is that the secret of longevity?
Corn, grain, and then soybean, and things like that.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you.
Mientras James Vaupel continúa su investigación, una cosa comienza a inquietarlo. Llamémosle una duda de un demógrafo. ¿Vio algo que explicara por qué Bama tiene 40 veces más centenarios que el resto de China? Por fin conoce a Lu Dihua. A los 110 años, es probablemente la más famosa de las ciudadanas de Bama.
So I'd like to ask you a few questions. Are there any genealogies or written records of how long she might be, or how long her family has lived?
Yeah, they had a long time ago, but they lost.
They lost the genealogy.
Yeah.
So does she have a identification card from 1953? But after the communist victory, people got an identification card. Isn't that right? The people got an identification card? In 1951, 52? No, not here. No. When was her birthday in the Chinese calendar?
她的生日农历就係 They only know she was born in June. Only know that.
In June?
Yeah, only in June.
But they don't know the animal year?
No. 十万年呢，生肖年。
那个1868，我未過翻啦。
They don't know exactly, but maybe the tiger year, maybe.
They don't know for her exactly.
Yeah.
No.
El escepticismo de James Vaupel crece aún más. Con planes de salir de China hacia finales de la semana, es difícil que pueda certificar la existencia de un centenario auténtico en Bama, aun cuando todos aparentan ser muy viejos.
This is Lu Diwa's coffin, and you can see it's really massive. It's a tradition in this part of Bama to make a coffin when a person turns 60. And according to the villagers here, this is Lu Diwa's third coffin. The first two rotted away, and this is the one that's left. And so that certainly would fit in with the notion that she's very, very old. And is her sister still in very good health? The 99-year-old sister?
Pero el misterio se mantiene. ¿Cuán vieja?
She had no papers that could verify her age. There was no genealogy. She had no children who could verify her age. There was no way of knowing that she was really 110. And then the same thing has been true with the other centenarians we've been talking with. So it's really hard to tell whether Bama actually does have the extraordinary number of centenarians that they're claiming. Whenever a remote region of the world has been claimed to be an area with lots of centenarians, closer analysis reveals that it's usually age misreporting, age exaggeration. If we know one thing about the secret of longevity, it's that you should be born in a rich, healthy environment with good medical care and good public health services. So it's really in the most advanced countries that we find the largest number of centenarians per million people.
Se espera que la población de centenarios en el ámbito mundial alcance los 100.000 hacia finales de este siglo. Mientras los investigadores daneses continúan su seguimiento de los miembros supervivientes de su grupo de estudios, se hace más claro cuánto contribuye el cuidado de la salud al boom centenario. Marta Pedersen, de 102 años, es un claro ejemplo. Depende del cuidado médico para su supervivencia. De hecho, no hace mucho, el 40% de los participantes del estudio no hubiesen llegado a los 100 años por fracturas de cadera. Pero nuevos tratamientos ahora hacen la diferencia.
Up until 1950 or so, very little attention was given to the health of old people. There was a belief, in fact, many people still believe, that there's one and only one cause of death at older ages, and that's old age, and nothing can be done about old age. But that's just not true. A lot can be done about old age.
The brain still is
functioning.
Yeah.
But your body,
the body,
yeah.
Pain, the pine.
Pain,
pain in the teeth, and pain in the fingers. Can't hear, can't see very well, very good. That's not fun.
That's not funny.
I can hop, I can run. It's fun, fun, fun. Det har jeg det klose fra. Det er også den børnebog.
Det er også fra den børnebog. I can hop, I can run, fun, fun, fun.
Ja. See me hop, see me run. That's fun, fun, fun.
There is some process of aging, and you can see it on people. Every year that goes by, people appear a little bit older, and they lose some of their functions. They gradually become physically and mentally less capable than they were when they were younger. There's improvements in some things. Older people maybe have more wisdom and a more detached view of the world that may have more love for the people of the world than younger people. But there is a gradual decline, a steady and gradual decline in physical and cognitive abilities. But there's no clock in the sense that it has to tick at a certain rate. And with medical interventions and public health interventions, exercise, good nutrition, and so on, the process can be slowed down so that their health declines at a less rapid rate and they survive longer and longer.
Ya hace 3 años que el estudio danés comenzó, y todos menos 50 de los 207 centenarios originales han muerto. Pero la información que le han impartido a James Vaupel y su equipo de investigadores ha sido invalorable y contiene un mensaje. Generalmente depende de nosotros tener una vida larga y saludable.
Så lukker vi lige døren efter os.
Sin embargo, esto aún no explica a personas como Ellie Johansen, de 102 años, quien dice haber tenido una vida sana a pesar de todos sus excesos.
Så du får 2 om dagen. Du får 2.
Det kan da godt, hvis det skal være.
Okay, godt nok. I smoke 2 or 3 cigars every day.
Ryger den? Læg med det.
Ej, ikke særlig meget.
Nå, særlig mand? Nå. Og jeg må samtidig blive der om nat.
Tror du, kosten betyder noget, om man bliver så gammel?
Ja.
Okay.
Det tror jeg.
Ja.
Spis jo mere usund, jo bedre. Jo længere ældre bliver man.
She thinks that the more greasy food, unhealthy food you eat, the longer you live.
If you look at a group of centenarians, as we've done in Denmark, what you discover is that there's no secret of longevity, no single secret of longevity. There are some people who've smoked all their lives who nonetheless managed to live to 100. There are some people who've had serious diseases when they were young, tuberculosis, for example, who have survived to 100. There are some people who've had breast cancer or who've had a stroke or a heart attack and nonetheless survived to 100. And if you ask 100-year-old people what the secret of their survival has been, every centenarian has a different answer, and most of them admit that they really don't know.
I believe that it is very complex, and I believe that you have a lot of compensating mechanism, you see. If you have some bad genes, maybe your environment and your lifestyle can change the impact of the bad genes, you see. So I believe that it's always an interplay, and I believe also you have to be lucky, and I believe also you have to have the will to continue to live, you see.
Después de la biología, la conducta, los genes y el entorno, tal vez lo que más importe es querer vivir hasta los 100 años. Conozcan a los Hanlon.
Here's the headlines. At last.
James tiene 106 años y Florence 100.
Peace in Ireland. By Barnacle. The headline is...
Es una de las pocas parejas centenarias en el mundo. Cada uno dice que el otro es su inspiración, y sin embargo, sus características individuales sobresalen.
Retired, I figured out that if I lasted 15 years, if I lived for 15 years, I would be even with the pension system, understand, that the company gave. 15 years, my God, I'm going on 41 years since I retired.
By and large, centenarians seem to have a certain love of life. They're happy to be alive and really want to live as long as possible. They seem to have a sense of humor. And they're able to survive the death of all their friends and the death of all their, or most of their relatives. So they have to have a certain toughness or detachment in order to survive.
Dad, we're using sea salt with herbs from Switzerland.
Yeah, always. So people just exactly the way they wanted it, right to the T. Okay?
Well, that's nice.
I wish I could do that.
Well, I think in the next 5 years we're going to get you trained so you can do this.
Well, I think I'll stick around and enjoy your eats for a few more years.
I know when Dad turned 100, I said, God, I'd give anything if he made 105. Well, here he is, 106, and he's going strong. The fact that my father is older, he reached 100 before my mother. So that was a milestone. He got all the notoriety. And now that she's made the 100 club, she's right up there with him. My parents are 1 in 50 million, and that's rare. And I'm very proud of that.
With all the loving kindness you people are showing us, honestly, we think we're going to stick around for 25 more years. Why would we want to leave it? Isn't it beautiful? Even the birds are enjoying it.
Rejoicing with you.
By studying people who are currently very old, we're studying the pioneers in the new frontier of survival that many of us are going to enter at the end of our lives, so that the people who are 100 years old today are in some fundamental sense the path breakers who are charting a new territory of long life that within a generation or two most people will probably enjoy.
Look at she's dancing. What should I say? I'm going to be 103. What do I want to think about? Worry about it? If I'm here, I would celebrate. If not, well, I've lived a good life. That's what I says to the kids. Don't you mourn me. Just be happy, because I had a good life.
You're going to have what?
Fried oysters.
Fried oysters? Oh.
Yes.
Why don't you get something heavy? Ma, you got to be polite.
Y es tal vez la mejor lección de todas. Lo que más importa no es una larga vida, sino una buena vida.
You have a little song for my mother.
I'll be loving you always with a love that's true. Always. When the things you planned need a helping hand, I will understand. Always. Always.
Good.
Days may not be fair. Always. That's when you'll be there. Always. Not for just an hour. Not for just a day. Not for just a year. But always. Very good.